Good. Wow. Good morning. You can tell I hadn't spoken yet this morning. Lee Kiefer. Have you ever heard of her? Had you ever heard of her? I had never heard of her before tomorrow morning. Lee Kiefer is the women's fencing gold medalist from the United States, and she won gold about 24 hours ago. There's no place better to see what you have to go through in order to accomplish something great than watching the Olympics. What those athletes have to endure and what they have to deal with in order to become a champion is, probably quite frankly too much, but it's amazing to watch. And the difference between gold, silver, bronze, and fourth place is astonishing when you think about that the difference between those four places can be a tenth of a point or a tenth of a second. I mean, it can be this teeny tiny, infinitesimally small amount. But yet, with gold, we give them everything. And with fourth place, you get nothing. So Lee Kiefer won the women's fencing gold medal. And I had never heard of her. I don't know anything about fencing. But they flipped it on, and I'm watching it yesterday morning. And I mean, when she won gold, it was a very tight match. I didn't even know. I mean, I know how they score. They got to touch the other person with the foil, but I didn't even know how much it went up to. It goes up to 15. I didn't know if you had to win by 2. I didn't know any of that. But when she won, she takes her mask off, and this moment of pure joy and astonishment is on her face. She starts immediately crying. She hugs her coach, and the first thing she says is, "Oh my God," and then she says, "Is this really happening?" And the things that are the hardest for us to accomplish are the things that we appreciate the most. And it's also the things that we grow the most from. And every one of those things, if you think back to a time to something that you really, when you did it, you almost couldn't believe that you did it. And when it finally got done, there was actually this moment where you were like, did it really happen? Is it really done? Is it really over? And for all of those things, most of the time, there's a moment when you don't think it's going to work out. When you're like, that's where the phrase, "it's always darkest before the dawn" comes from, because there's always this moment where you're like, this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to get done. This isn't going to get figured out. I'm not going to get this accomplished. And then all of a sudden it does happen. And then once it does, it's there forever. And now, that circle of influence that we've talked a million times gets expanded, and your confidence gets expanded, and away you go. This is why visualization is so powerful, because when you visualize those outcomes, remember, there's no difference for your brain between what you actually experience and what you vividly imagine. And so when you vividly imagine accomplishing these events, accomplishing these outcomes, your brain starts to feel more confident about what you can do and the results that you can create. So for her, this pure moment of joy was just amazing to get to sit there and watch. And so I looked her up and read about her story, and of course it's one of those amazing Olympic stories, and she wasn't ranked number 1. She didn't think that she was going to win, and now she's a gold medalist. So what in your life is something that you didn't think you were ever going to really get it figured out? That there was a moment where you thought, this just isn't going to get figured out. And what did it feel like when you finally did? And what are you dealing with that right now? One of the things that's great, I think, about watching shows like Undercover Millionaire and those types of shows is when you watch somebody else do it, that makes it so that you conceptually are like, okay, this can be done. These things can be accomplished. The Biggest Loser, I think, was a really great show, because when they first started out, they took people who were pretty significantly out of shape and turned them basically into fitness models. And they didn't use any drugs. They didn't use any gadgets. It was simply diet and exercise. And by watching that, you were like, okay, if it can happen. That's the great thing about going and seeing motivational speakers who have done it all on their own, because you're like, a lot of times they'll spend a lot of time saying to you, I'm no different than you. I just made a decision that this is where I was going to end up, and now here I am. And that's really the big difference. It's a massive amount of work, it's a massive amount of effort, but the big difference is to make a decision, to decide that this is where I'm going to take my life. So, what is it right now? Here we are on Monday. What is it right now that you need to make a decision that you're going to change in your life forever? What is it right now that you need to make a decision that this is going to be created in my life? I'm going to create this outcome in a relationship, in finances, in your career, in your health, in your body, in your fitness level, your ability to be a role model, whatever it is. What's the decision that you need to make that you're going to decide this is no longer going to be an option? This is going to be an outcome that I'm going to create no matter what. And you don't need to know how. You don't need to know what the journey is going to be. All you need to know is this now needs to happen. You need to know the why. And when you get that why, the how's going to get itself figured out. You know you're going to create this outcome, so then therefore your mind will start figuring out a way in order to do that. So, happy Monday, everybody. Go check out that moment when Lee won the gold medal. It's a beautiful moment. And that moment of pure victory and joy in creating that outcome, that's a moment that we all share. It's a moment that we all want. It's a moment, that's what life is all about, is when you have had to struggle so hard and you finally accomplished the result. And the fact that she had to struggle as hard as she did is what made that outcome so fantastic. If it would have been easy, it wouldn't have been as good and it wouldn't have been as worth it. So, what is it that you're going to create? That's where the juice of life is at. Make a decision right now of something that you're going to create and have that moment that you see on Lee's face when she has that victory and wins that gold medal. In the words of Dan Mahoney, let's get after it. It's Monday. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.